are about to begin working with a whole new polarity of eclipses beginning on September 17th, 18th for some of us in different time zones, but here where I live, it's going to be on the 17th of September. We're going to see a lunar eclipse at 25 degrees Pisces and some change. We'll be looking at that chart here momentarily, but I do just want to discuss this for a moment because that means that the eclipses are going to be lighting up a whole new sector of your chart, and it's going to be introducing a whole new set of collective themes that we're going to be working with as a human species together for the next 2 years. So as I said, we're going to see our first eclipse in Pisces on September 17th, 18th for some of us. And we're going to see our last one along this axis in August of 2026. So we're definitely going to be working with this for some time. We are still working with the Aries Libra energy. So I know I've been talking about this so much with my clients, which is Aries Libra, which is about finding peace by doing something brave and courageous, Aries. About how what people think of me is none of my business, Libra, Aries. We're having to rebalance some of those Libra tendencies for harmony and cooperation with Aries, just kind of going for it and not overthinking it, right? Being authentic versus the cultivated veneer of Libra versus the rough around the edges quality of Aries, independence of Aries. So we've been working with that collectively. We're not done with that. We're still working with it. These eclipse patterns tend to overlap a little bit. So we're going to see an overlap here in this eclipse season. We'll see, like I said, a Pisces eclipse on September 17th. We're going to see an eclipse in Libra on October 2nd. So we'll be talking about that one here soon as well. In the spring, in March, we're going to see an eclipse in Virgo. So the very first one in Virgo. We will then see an eclipse, our final one in Aries. So we're going to see 2 eclipse seasons where they overlap. That is not weird. That is actually really normal. But we're going to start to get an introduction here of Virgo-Pisces. So what I'm about to do now is I'm about to pull up that chart and then we'll talk about some of those themes. All right. So here is our chart for the lunar eclipse. It does say full moon. It's not technically a full moon. It is a lunar eclipse, which is its own thing. A lot of people wonder, is an eclipse basically a super powerful full moon? And no, I mean, it does have an illuminating quality like a full moon does, but eclipses are way less gentle, more chaotic, more dramatic. They can help us align with our path and our purpose. They do have a potential to be catalysts for things that feel very aligned and destined for us, but they are not usually gentle. This is a lunar eclipse, so we do want to be looking for shifts in perspective, new awarenesses revealing pathways of possibility for us down the line. Again, this is our first eclipse in this polarity, so it's likely going to be one that's more revealing than anything else, though changes can and will occur for some of us. But again, you want to look and see where this is happening in your chart, where Pisces is and where Virgo is, because this is the start of a whole new story. Now, keep in mind, there's a lot happening in Pisces right now. A lot. We've got Saturn moving through Pisces, getting closer and closer to Neptune. There's a big story for many of us that's in development there. There will also be a Venus retrograde, splitting its time between Aries and Pisces, coming up this spring. And Venus will station direct in a conjunction with Saturn on this eclipse degree. So they will be stationing direct 24 or 25 degrees Pisces right there. So just keep in mind, if you have something at 25 degrees Pisces, or any of the mutable signs for that matter, Gemini, Virgo, Sag, this is a hot degree. This is a very hot degree. Also, the degree of the next eclipse, which will be at 10 degrees Libra on October 2nd. We will also see an eclipse at 10 degrees, 9 degrees Aries in March. That will also be the degree that Venus stations retrograde in April. So we've got, these degrees are very hot. So if you have planets at 10 degrees cardinal, 25 degrees mutable, this eclipse season may be the start of a story arc that goes until the springtime. So keep that in mind here. Yeah, and Venus, again, will be retrograde in Pisces next spring. So there is a lot happening here. And maybe Saturn has been kind of doing its Saturn thing, making things clearer for you, showing you places of insecurity, showing you where issues are that you want to work on. But this eclipse is going to be a lot more dramatic. It's going to shift our perspective in some ways. And it's going to be close to Neptune also, which is important, as you can see. But let's break down these incoming themes here. We've got Virgo-Pisces. This is a polarity that highlights the balance, the fine balance between showing up, doing the work, doing something. Virgo is a sign that is a planner. It is ruled by Mercury. There's a considerable amount of thought, planning, organizing, analyzing, deciphering that goes on with Virgo. Virgo is on top of it. Virgo is planning every which way that the plans could change and coming up with different backup plans for those things. So Virgo, while sometimes stunted by the myriad of choices and can sometimes be paralyzed by too many options, Virgo is very proactive. Virgo is an earth sign. It's about showing up, doing something. And we all know, if you've ever been friends with a Virgo, they are the most thoughtful, devoted, caring people. There's a reason that the Virgo archetype is often depicted with wings. They are very angelic. They are very humble, and as well as their like funny and witty qualities too. But the important thing is that Virgo is very cerebral and proactive. On the flip side, we have Pisces. Pisces is a sign ruled by Jupiter, and it's a water sign. So this is a deeply spiritual, introspective. The inner world is expansive and large, and there's a great deal of existence internally for Pisces energy. Faith is very important, imagination, very important, trusting that things will just work out, the ability to go with the flow. Now, there's a fine teeter-totter between these two signs because sometimes there's too much faith, there's too much trust, and not enough proactivity to balance it out. If you've ever said, oh, the universe will take care of it, the universe will take care of it, I'm doing all my yoga, I'm doing all my meditation, things will just work out because I'm in alignment with the universe. Sometimes it does work out that way, but sometimes it does not. And that's where the Virgo energy, especially, that's where the Virgo energy can round out Pisces and say, you know, I do have to take initiative. I do have to act on the things that I want. I do have to put my foot forward every day. I do have to show up for the things that I believe in. That's where Virgo can kind of round out Pisces. The other way around is sometimes we're worrying way too much about things we don't need to worry about. And sometimes the universe does just end up taking care of those things for us. Sometimes we stay up late worrying about all the things we're going to say and do to remedy a situation the next day, only to have that matter resolved. And then we stayed up all night agonizing over nothing. There are also things that you can plan and plan and plan for, but you ultimately have no control over, and you're forced to go with the flow. Or there are some things you can't anticipate or plan for, and you have to just have faith that things are going to work out because your hands are tied and you have absolutely no choice but to have faith. This polarity is going to be rebalanced and emphasized for each of us in our life over the next 2 years. So for some of us, that means having more faith, and for some of us, that means being more proactive. Both of these signs tend to worry and agonize a lot. And it's not to say that that isn't valid. There's a lot of tension going on in the world right now. However, it's our relationship with that worry. Are we going about it in a more cerebral way? Are we going about it in a more trusting way? What might be more healing for us at this moment? Now, it's difficult because Saturn moving through Pisces is kind of saying to us collectively, what can we have faith in? What kind of God would commit this atrocity? What kind of God would allow these things to happen? How can we possibly put our faith in anything at this time? There's things that we need to physically show up for and be proactive about and educate ourselves about. So that's been going on a little bit, but it's important to note that the North Node, which is a point of drawing more energy over here. Like we've had more energy coming to Aries, which has been inviting us to take spicier takes in our life, to confront things versus keeping the peace. So for some of us, for most of us probably, that North Node moving into Pisces is going to be a lot stronger. Feeling like we need to find faith in something. And that can be kind of the other side of Saturn, is that we've lost the faith, so we need to put it into something else, which is an interesting point because something that we're going to be working a lot with over the coming year and a half, actually, is this Saturn-Neptune buildup. We're going to see a conjunction, an official conjunction between Saturn and Neptune in early 2026, but they are going to get within a degree of each other next spring. Something Richard Tarnas pointed out in his book, Cosmos and Psyche, about the Saturn-Neptune conjunction is that it often brings periods of grave disappointment, periods of a loss of faith, a tremendous collective apathy towards caring because the thing that we cared about has been destroyed, or just the bubble has been burst, the momentum is gone. So there's something about trying to figure out what to actually have faith in on the other side, building a new foundation of belief and hope, and being proactive and living in alignment with that. So this is something we will absolutely be working on again for the next 2 years. We're going to see that conjunction of Saturn and Neptune at 0 degrees Aries before this eclipse period is over. So this eclipse along the Pisces Virgo axis is going to help us renegotiate how we rebuild a sense of faith in humanity, how we rebuild a sense of faith in the world, how our spiritual practices may shift to support our well-being. And we're going to get a pretty fierce introduction to this here because very often eclipses, they're kind of unpredictable in the sense that they can certainly accentuate these Pisces themes here of like hope, belief, faith, but they can also eclipse it, meaning we don't see it. Where is it? And that's the very issue. And we have this eclipse on September 17th, eclipsing Neptune. Neptune is the illusion. Neptune is the escape hatch. Neptune is how we check out. There is something provocative about this eclipse that may say we can't lie to ourselves or be deceived or use that escape hatch any longer. There's a reveal from this eclipse that shifts our perspective with the way that we tend to avoid, or it shifts our understanding and perspective of our beliefs, the things that we put our faith into. This eclipse has the potential to reorient and have us question what we believe. Now, it's interesting because as I'm recording this on September 9th, there has been a story that has broken out about Russia funding a lot of media personalities in the United States, specifically ones that support the reelection of Donald Trump. And this, of course, to me, brings up Pluto and Aquarius, which is like digital forms of warfare, for example, like getting in people's heads in order to do your dirty work for you. In other words, how to win the war is to convince other people to fight it for you. That is an interesting tactic, okay? But what's interesting here is that I'm recording this just a week before this eclipse. And so we're in this eclipse window and there is an illusion being burst right here. Now, it might take some time for some people to come to grips with that, with what that means, but people are already breaking. People are already like, okay, like I've been duped, I've been deceived. And this prediction here is not limited to that circumstance. There may be other things in our life where we realize, wow, I really put my faith into that, or I put a lot of my time and energy into that, and I realize how it's actually taken a lot from me in other ways. So there could be like a waking up here around Neptune, around what the delusions and illusions are in our world. At the same time, sometimes these eclipses really tend to energize these points too. So there may be like a question around what's real, a question around what would make us feel good with Neptune. But I tend to think it's going to be more like the eclipse is saying, all right, we can't have that anymore. That doesn't look the same to us as it used to. The last point I want to make about this eclipse, it's a little wide from its conjunction with Saturn. I won't count Saturn here, but the story arc of what's happening in our Pisces house is important. However, we do need to look at the fact that this eclipse is ruled by Jupiter and Gemini. Jupiter and Gemini having a lot to do with talking out of both sides of our mouth. Jupiter and Gemini having to do with an overstimulation of media consumption, streams of ideas, how it's difficult to discern what the truth is with Jupiter and Gemini, because Jupiter in Gemini says, I could look at it this way and it's true, but I could look at it that way and it's also true. So I don't know what's true. It's also describing an environment of fast-paced changing of the script, of the story. Jupiter in Gemini is just an abundance of information and it's all coming at us and it's very difficult to sift through. Because as soon as you think you have a handle on it, new information comes in and the story changes. So there's a lot of influence here with Jupiter and Gemini and its connection with media and its connection with schools, children, early education. There's a lot of connection here with, again, Jupiter and Gemini cares a lot about games too. So games, distractions, diversion, play. And yeah, during the last Saturn-Jupiter square we had in August, because that is kind of emphasized here, there was a lot of crackdown on media. We saw the CEO of Telegram get arrested. We saw Zuckerberg coming out saying that he regrets censoring things on Facebook. But yeah, there's a lot of topics around disinformation and censorship, something that Saturn square Jupiter is going to cover a lot about. And we only saw that for the first time in August. We're going to see that again in December, and we're going to see that again next summer. Although Jupiter will be in Cancer by then. We also saw X become banned in Brazil. We also saw Truth Social is starting to kind of like collapse because Trump came back to X or Twitter. So there is a lot Jupiter and Gemini has been doing over the last month. I would say that this transit is only going to be intensified under the auspices of this eclipse. And if you want more information about this Jupiter-Saturn square, I have talked about it a lot on this channel, on this platform, but I also have a 2-hour webinar going into detail about Jupiter and Gemini, specifically the square with Saturn, but also going through history with Jupiter and Gemini to tell us a lot about what this transit is fully going to entail. So that presentation is on sale right now, so definitely go over to my website and check that out. So that's a little bit about this eclipse coming in, this new series beginning in the Pisces and Virgo sectors of our chart. Pay attention what's coming up, because this is the start of a new story. Pay attention to that balance between hope, faith, and planning, that balance between your head versus heart, and see what awareness is coming to you, because that's going to be important. You're going to be working with that here for the next 2 years. So we'll definitely be talking more about this as the time goes on. But for right now, this is your astrology shot of the day, and I'll catch you next time. Bye. Thanks so much for tuning in with me today. For more astrology in your world, you can connect with me on all platforms at Astro Catherine. You can also head on over to my website, catherineurban.com, where you can book your next astrology reading. We'll go into depth into your natal chart, your progressions, your profections, your solar return, your transits, and beyond. You can also join my mailing list where you can stay up to date with me on new classes as well as article drops. I look forward to connecting with you, and I'll see you next time.